I've played a lot of RPGs. From Final Fantasy to Wild Arms, I've had a fair history with the genre. But one series from this genre I have never played has been Atlus's Shin Megami Tensei franchise. In the last couple of years, Atlus has gained the attention of gamers everywhere thanks to its successful title Persona 5, an amazing game that stole the hearts of those who played it, reaching the fame levels of Earthbound, becoming yet another game the internet wouldn't shut up about. With its popularity taking the world by storm, Atlus has some big expectations to meet with their next game, because even if it wasn't named Persona, everyone was going to compare it to their new favorite RPG. I have never played any Shin Megami Tensei game before this. I did buy Nocturne for my Switch, but I never touched it, and it continues to collect dust in my library until I clear off more stuff from my schedule. As I head into this game, I do so with no expectations, not as a longtime fan of the series, not as a newbie coming in hot off Persona 5, but as a casual role-playing game fan, now trying out the franchise. So let's dive into post-apocalyptic Japan with Shin Megami Tensei V. For this story, we assume the role of a silent, unnamed protagonist of Who Cares University. Rumors are building of people mysteriously disappearing as teachers tell students to go home in groups rather than by themselves. On your way to the train station to get back to the dorms, you meet fellow students Tao Isinokami, Yuzuru Atsuta, and Miyazu Atsuta. You begin to talk about the weird dreams Tao has been having until you reach the station, and you see that you won't be going anywhere. So you bail on the group and head off on your own to a bridge where you meet another student, Ichiro Dazai. Apparently this bridge has some creepy rumors surrounding it, and Ichiro is going to record his exploration of it for internet fame, like the wannabe YouTuber he is. Things go smoothly for 0 seconds as Yuzuru, who left for a phone call, runs out of the tunnel and towards the main characters while the bridge collapses, killing us all. Jokes aside, instead of getting killed, we get transported to a dystopian landscape, and immediately, Ichiro gets kidnapped by an angel because his uselessness knows no bounds. Meanwhile, we find a demon who tries to strike us down, until a magical cube finds us and transforms into a muscular man. We touch the mysterious man, and turn to a blue-haired anime protagonist with gender-neutral pronouns, and Naruto runs like a dork. We kill the demon and immediately realize that we're in Japan after the bomb dropped. Our new friend Aogami tells us that a war broke out between demons and angels 20 years ago that led to the destruction of Japan. I assume the rest of the world got destroyed as well, but they only specify the fate of Japan. We make our way to the Japan Diet Building, as that's apparently where the angels have taken Ichiro. While on our journey, we find Yuzuru, alive and well, and he immediately recognizes us and tells us how he survived this new Japan because he's a part of a demon summoning group, and has been summoning demons to fight other demons. Oh, if you were expecting any explanation for that absurd backstory, you don't, and you better get used to that because you're gonna see this trend a lot in this game. After fighting a Hydra, you meet this monk guy named Goko, whose personality is that he's a Buddhist and nothing else, and then he immediately leaves. Don't worry, he comes back to waste more of our time. Once we reach the diet building, we then fight a sexy snake woman who is working with a human named Shohei Yakumo. Shohei is a human who hunts demons and believes humanity doesn't need the help of gods in order to survive in this dystopian world. He seeks to see a strong human civilization pull through the rubble and rebuild society. And then after that, he exposition dumps on you and leaves as quickly as he arrived. Can anyone give me some semblance of a plot, please? Whatever. We find Ichiro's useless ass and head home through a magical portal to find the Japanese Prime Minister, who is also the head of defense, and the leader of that demon summoning group Yuzuru is a part of. Yeah, that ain't an abuse of power. Oh yeah, we also found out that Tao, that girl with the weird dreams earlier, is also working for this demon summoning group, and the angels refer to her by some fancy title called the Maiden. At this point, you probably have a million questions. What was it that Japan? What did we transform into? What is a demon summoning group? Who is Goko? Can I flirt with the sexy snake woman? What's a proto-fiend? Now before I begin to answer those questions, let me remind you that we're still only at the beginning of the game. Has that set in yet? Good. Time for an exposition dump. So 20 years ago, demons tried to take over the world, and the forces of Bethel, that's the demon summoning group, tried to stop them. During the shitstorm that was World War III, Lucifer descends from heaven to declare that he killed God. However, before God truly dies, he somehow saves the world by separating it from reality or something. I don't know. Point is, the real world still exists, and the world we're currently living in is an illusion or dream of some sort. Now we're tasked with defeating the demon army in the name of God, who died, with the help of gods from other religions. Checks out! And thus, with all that exposition dumped on you, and clearly no more questions to ask, you are forced to join Bethel in defeating the demons. Before we continue breaking down the story, let's dive into the rest of the game. The game is a turn-based RPG with monster raising mechanics. It's all about growing stronger and using your monsters effectively to eliminate any opposing threat with ease. You can attack with your fists or cast magic to buff or lower stats, or hit opponents with elemental magic spells. Enemy demons have various weaknesses, and when you exploit that weakness or land a critical, you'll get another action in combat, maxing out at 1 extra turn per unit in combat, meaning you can max out at 2 rounds of 4 turns per combat. It's a fun system that makes you feel godlike for just playing by the game's rules. As you exploit the enemy's weaknesses, you gain a power called Magatsui, which I kept calling Magatsushi. This lets you activate very special abilities. Your default ability makes every hit a critical, and the other abilities can be unlocked by gaining various talismans from demons you'll meet offering side quests. Sadly, guaranteed crits seem overpowered, so I didn't see myself using any of the other Magatsui abilities. There's a wide array from demons to use, from simple fairies to even gods themselves. There's demons of all sorts, ranging from the franchise mascots, memes, and even mythical figures. As you play, you'll slowly pick your favorites similarly to Pokemon, except where in Pokemon your favorite may be picked due to its cute appearance or their Pokedex entry. This time around, it might be because of how cool they look or their gruesome lore. Which is just like Pokemon now that I say it out loud. Some demons can be recruited during combat, and some can only be obtained by fusion, which is done by jamming out on a piano. Eventually, I built my main team of demons using only my favorites. The first of the group was Jack-O-Lantern, who needs no explanation. They are pure perfection. Sadly, they did get the boot from the team because eventually things got more challenging and he needed to be replaced with Thor because Thor became a powerhouse Odin who had massive stats. Next up was Alice. Initially I put her on the team because I thought having a literal child on my side was funny, until she went from asking others to die to straight up making a bloodbath of her enemies. And finally, my last party member was the glorious unit himself, King Frost. It used to be Dark Frost until I realized this meant I had 2 dark users on my team and eventually swapped him out for something better. I also had this dragon that I can't remember the name of because he had a really cool ability that buffed everyone's stats, and that was awesome! During combat, you can actually talk to your opponents to try and recruit them to your team. This can lead to all kinds of humorous conversations that can keep you entertained. This might be the only time this antisocial loser actually looked forward to talking to someone. Seriously, some of these conversations can range from formal to downright ludicrous, and that's just with the ones I'll have with you. Later you'll unlock the ability to have your own demons talk to the enemies, and that can lead to even better scenes which will make you laugh your heart out. Once you've buttered a demon up, it's time to make a deal with them. Before joining you, they'll want something in return. This can range from an item, maybe a small amount of money, to even your own health. And if you're not careful, some demons will take advantage of you and take more than their fair share. So you'll need to learn when to tell a demon that they can't have something or when they've had more than enough. One neat thing about getting demons isn't the new addition of a soldier to dispose of your enemies. It's the essence you'll get. Essence in this game is like TMs from Pokemon, where they can teach you or your demons new spells and abilities automatically. And in the case of the main character, you can even take on the demon's own weaknesses, meaning you can change what you're resistant or immune to. This system is a mixed bag, because on the negative side, you can only hold on to one essence from a particular demon at a time, which can lead to you having to grind for certain demons until you've taught a certain attack or ability to the demons you need. On the other hand, it makes it possible to continuously use your favorite demons by teaching them new stuff instead of replacing them. It's thanks to this system that I was actually able to keep my favorite units till the end of the game. With exception to poor Jack-O-Lantern. You'll never be forgotten. However, if the only downside to the system is how you can only hold on to one of each demon's essence at a time, I can't justifiably call it an entirely bad system. Just an inconvenient one. Unlike traditional RPGs, you can't really customize your main character here. You can't alter any equipment, design, or anything. There are very few things you have control over. First off is your stats. They'll grow at a steady rate, but they'll give you a few free points to allocate to any stat you want. Now, you can be strategic with your allocations and build a balanced character. Or you could be like me and dump it all into magic because it makes you undefeatable. Another gimmick this game implements is the glory system. As you play the game, you'll find small little gremlins named Meman and Knowledge Fruit, which are just apples, which will grant you various amounts of glory points. These points can be used to gain new abilities, from increasing your demon army spaces, to the aforementioned ability allowing demons to talk to each other, to even increasing how many abilities your demons can learn. These bonuses you can get are so good that you'll be searching high and low for any glory just to get a quick hit of dopamine from the power you'll get. While you play the game and progress the story, you'll be exploring the far corners of the netherworld. Or at least just the shores of Japan. the border patrol won't let us go to America. And frankly, this game looks great. I was really impressed with the first time I saw the Netherworld and how it stood out compared to other Switch games. The view of a desolate and destroyed Japan really had me excited to see what the rest of the game looked like. And the rest of the game looks the exact same. You'll go from post-apocalyptic Minato to post-apocalyptic Chiyoda, and you'll see the exact same sights. Broken buildings, broken bridges, toppled buildings, uprooted train rails, and even more buildings in disarray, with the only real difference being the color of the sky. There is a small area in Shinagawa that's a fairy forest filled with beautiful trees and waterfalls, which really breaks the mold. But sadly, it's one of the only places that really sticks out. I know I'm the hero and not a tourist, but I want some more variety in the world. It gets really boring just seeing the exact same stuff on loop. Scattered around these iconic Japanese locations will be demons looking to pick a fight or demons looking for someone to accept a side quest. The game is littered with side quests everywhere. It rivals MMOs in numbers, and they can range in size from giving them specific items to killing certain demons. They extend the overall length of the game by a lot, and that's a good thing, because the actual main plot, the main reason you're playing this game in the first place, is so short. After the forces of Bethel make you join their ranks, the plot just sort of zooms by without giving you any time to process what happened. After joining Bethel, you try to resume your school life and meet a nice girl named Sahori, who's getting bullied a lot, and hears voices in her head. You know, typical high school stuff. Tao mentions that she's good friends with Sahori, and the next thing you know, there's a demon outbreak, and you need to hero up, say hi to Goku for 5 seconds, and fight a mega demon named Lamu, who apparently is a big deal and a huge threat, which hasn't really been conveyed at this point. And then you immediately kick his teeth in, and he gets away claiming he found his other half, which just so happens to be Sahori. You rush to the school and try to clear out as many students as possible while eliminating any demons you find. When you reach the top, you see Sahori joining up with Lamu to get some short-lived revenge on her tormentors, and then she's pulled into the Netherworld with her new master, along with various students. You follow after them with the intent of saving the girl, but first, you need to gather the other students and escort them to safety. While you continue to search for the surviving humans, you battle this pointless demon hunter guy named Fion, who apparently is also helping humans, and he's been directing them to a nearby fairy village. On your way there, you talk to Ichiro about how useless he is and how he simps for the Archangel Abdiel. And then you reach the fairy village where you take a short detour to get some golden apples to help heal the surviving humans before you're allowed to progress to the main plot. With the rest of your class finally healed, Ichiro fumbles into camp because he underestimated his own uselessness and got his ass handed to him. He tells you where Lamu and Sahori are, which leads right to the next fight. This time won't be like the last one though, because this time, as you fight him, he and Sahori become a two-phase boss fight. Phase 1, just a bunch of hentai tentacles, and Phase 2 introduces this creepy thing into the mix. After winning the fight, Lamu kills you. Seriously, he just does. And then Tao sacrifices her life in order to resurrect you. So, what was the point of this? Whatever. Tao tragically sacrifices herself to bring us back, and then we take this opportunity to kill Sahori. And no, I wasn't given an option to spare her or kill her, I just automatically killed her. And my reward for doing so is now being able to fusion summon Lamu. Goody. You report to the Prime Minister and he's like, well that sucks. By the way, she was just like you, main character boy. She was an Ahobino. Meanwhile, you and Ichiro meet up at your dorm to continuously remind us that Ichiro is useless and how he became a demon summoner to protect people and failed to do the only thing he wanted, and how he wishes he could be confident like Abdiel because he's a fucking simp. After sitting through Ichiro's simp talk, you talk to the Prime Minister again and he tells you that now is the time to kill the Demon King. But the Japanese branch of Bethel isn't allowed to join, so the Prime Minister tells you and Ichiro to just break orders and do it anyways. And all this happens on the 3rd day since this story started. You see what I mean by the game story zooms by? Also, Yuzuru doesn't get to come with us because the boss man says he has different plans for him. So you dive right in, you have to kill the first 2 walls of defense between the Demon King's fortress and you. First off is Surtur, who creates a giant wall of fire that you can't pass without a special amulet. During the search of the Flame Talisman, you encounter Shohei again, here to remind us that he's a main character and he tests your abilities by fighting you. Eventually you win, and then nothing happens. Quite literally, this amounts to nothing. Just a waste of time. Like this tangent. Once you get past Surtur, you meet Starro the Conqueror, who warns you about the next line of defense, Ishtar. Ishtar isn't going to be easy to fight. She's a vast supply of Magatsui that makes her nigh unstoppable, but Starro tells you there's a catch. Her power comes from these pillars scattered across the map, and as long as they're active, she's basically unbeatable. So you need to destroy as many as possible, and doing so makes her into a pushover. And like, when I say she becomes a pushover, I mean, it no longer feels like a boss fight. It feels like fighting a regular enemy. She is that harmless when you get rid of every pillar. Which could be a very big chore, because some of these are very cryptic to get to, and I'm still mad! Once I finished screwing around, I got into the first real dungeon in the game. And it is awesome! It was visually interesting and has a fun mechanic where you use wind turbines to get to previously locked locations. The dungeon may not be that special when compared to dungeons in other RPGs, but given the pacing and current design of the game, it's such a breath of fresh air, and it made me smile from ear to ear while I was taking in the sights, which was ruined to the difficult decision of retiring my oldest partner, Jack-O-Lantern. Take your rest. You will not be forgotten. Once you reach the deep, dark depths of this dungeon, you gotta meet this fat ass, the alleged king of demons, the one running the whole show. Which I thought was gonna be Lucifer, since, you know, he's the head honcho of hell and all, and plays a role in the story of the game. Who is this guy? Whatever. After the disappointment of not fighting Lucifer, you beat the fat ass, and I guess you stopped the demons. Congrats! The leader of the demons is dead! Game over now, right? You silly moron! This did absolutely nothing! Japan is still screwed, and now some people are straight up just vanishing into thin air apparently! Now the forces of Bethel need to talk about what to do now. With things only seemingly getting worse, Bethel declares a meeting with the religious groups they partnered with. Before you go to the meeting, the Prime Minister decides that it's time for more reveals to be dumped on you. Apparently, he's the Japanese god Tsukuyomi, and the proto-fiend you fused with is his brother Susanoo. Sure, I'll roll with it. I definitely don't have any more questions like why Susanoo is called a proto-fiend, why he called himself Aogami. Nope, definitely good. Thanks for totally answering everything, Tsukuyomi. So you go to the meeting of religions, which only consists of Tsukuyomi, Abdiel, Zeus, Odin, Khonsu, and Vasuki, because Shiva couldn't care at all about this. Abdiel states that now the demon army is defeated, things are going to go back to the status quo, following the Christian god. The other gods won't stand for this and call out Abdiel for her BS because Lucifer said he killed God, and that if God were still around, he wouldn't allow Nahobino like the main character to exist. So despite being the only reason we won this war, Abdiel tries to kill us in cold blood to uphold the word of God. Well, we beat her ass because she's just about as useless as Ichiro, and the other deities take this as a sign that it's time for this alliance to end, because now that God is dead, now any of them can ascend to the throne of creation and become God. Yeah, I'll roll with it. Since things went swimmingly at the conference, Tsukuyomi finally tells us what a Nahobino even is. You see, long ago, God deemed the existence of a Nahobino to be a sin, because it's the only thing that could actually overthrow him. To become a Nahobino, you need to fuse with a demon, but not just any demon, whatever demon is your perfect partner. Nahobinos are split into two halves, power and mind. Humans represent the mind, and demons represent the power. So with Tsukuyomi somewhat explaining what a Nahobino really is, it's time to make more of them out of the blue. Surprise! Yuzuru is Tsukuyomi's other half. Surprise! Abdiel's other half just happens to be her fucking simp, Ichiro. And now with all these plot reveals out of the way, it's time to ascend to godhood. And we can only do that by finding 3 magical keys that will get us to open the gates to the throne of creation. And how will we find these keys? Well, with the help of Tao! Oh yeah, she's not dead anymore. She's alive and reached her final form. Also, Tao is joining us because she feels as if we're the one deemed worthy enough to ascend to the throne of creation. Despite the fact she literally just met us 3 days ago and we haven't said a word of casual conversation to each other. Each key is held by one of the big members of the Council of Deities from earlier, Odin, Zeus, and Vasuki. But not Khonsu. Trust me, there's a reason for that. While we journey to each key, we'll meet the 3 cornerstone characters of this game, Yuzuru, Ichiro, and Shohei. Remember him? Each one talks about how they think the plot should be resolved, and you kinda just sit there and watch them monologue about their bullcrap for a while. And then you fight those 3 gods. And these fights are tough. I went into these fights thinking they wouldn't be that much of a threat because I was at the maximum level. But dang, these fights caught me off guard. It reminded me that this game doesn't mess around, no matter what level you are. As you explore the final area of the game, you'll get the 3 keys needed to open the doors to the Throne of Creation, and once the doors are open, you get access to the final dungeon of the game. And where the last one was fun and interesting, this one is boring. It's filled with these dumb time stop gates that don't really offer any challenge or fun, they just exist to waste your time. Going through them doesn't offer opportunities to avoid enemies, just the opposite. They lead you past multiple groups of enemies to get a gate to resume time, just to make sure that you have to go through each and every wall of enemies. And just to show how lazy the developers got, the variety of enemies is very small, and there's literal lines of them. Not groups, actual, straight lines. Copy-pasted from room to room, put there to waste as much time as possible. But close up together prevent you from getting past without one fight. Other areas of the game have enemies in groups, maybe patrolling other areas, and the enemies I had found were positioned in a way that let the player avoid fights in case they were not in the condition to fight. This final dungeon does away with any of the good design the rest of the game had in favor of putting you in as many fights as possible just to waste your time and make the game feel longer than it actually is. When you finally reach the top, it's time to make an important decision, or rather, the only important decision in the entire game. What ending do you want? Now, according to a quick Google search I did in the Megami Tensei franchise, the way the game ends is determined by what choices you make during the game, from how you talk to people to who you let live and die throughout the story. But in this game, you just get to choose whatever ending you want, regardless of what it is you've done. You could choose to side with Abdiel and Ichiro and get the lawful ending, where you uphold God's will, creating a world where everyone can be happy and safe as long as they sacrifice their own individuality. You can then side with Yuzuru and Tsukiyomi and get the chaotic ending, where you recreate the world, allowing a place for all demons and humans to exist, but with a high risk of opposing gods and demons to destroy the world again. And finally, you could side with Shohei and get the neutral ending, where you destroy the throne and have faith that humanity will kind of just pull through and rise above the demons using their own strength. Given that the chaotic ending doesn't seem too good, and that Abdiel literally tried murdering me a few hours ago, I decided to side with Shohei, which pissed everyone off, including Tao. And without Tao by my side anymore, I have to traverse through a boss rush without anyone to heal me for free in between battles. Goody! The first few fights aren't really that special or tough, but then we get to see Abdiel and Ichiro. As they turn to their Nahobino form, I become a little bit disappointed in their design, cause I was expecting something a bit more majestic or divine. But it is designed around Abdiel more or less turning into a demon for defying God's order, so I still like it. After that is the final boss fight against Yuzuru and Tsukiyomi in their final form, which looks rad! But all they do is spam Shadow Clone Jutsu to waste even more time. And with Yuzuru and Tsukiyomi defeated, we finally ascend to the throne of creation and meet Goko one last time, revealing himself as the guardian of the throne and has been looking for someone to rise to the throne this entire time. And then we destroy it, just to piss him off. With that done, we fully rise to godhood, dooming most of humanity, but the few survivors are now stronger, and with a new civilization akin to the Viltrumites from Invincible because of my neglect. I'm the asshole here, aren't I? Well, good news, because I unlocked a new game plus, so I get to try again with my demons and level carrying over! Ha! And with that done, I have finished the game. Or rather, I've gotten one ending, because now that I have New Game Plus, this allows us to see what the true ending to the game is. Goody! Another 60 plus hour adventure awaits! So with New Game Plus, we can restart the game with our previous levels and our max level demons carrying over with us, which we will use to speed through this game as fast as possible. So to get the true ending isn't entirely defined by what we say throughout the game, it's instead done by what quests we accept. For starters, accept every quest in the fairy village, as well as the mission, An Unusual Forecast. This will unlock a side quest where you battle Fion, yeah, that weird demon bounty hunter we met while fighting Lamu, one last time before he joins us. There's also an extensive side quest line featuring the Egyptian gods, starting off with Isis asking you to do something simple, just bringing back the head of her son Horus. Once you do that, then you go fight Khonsu, and whatever you do, do not kill him. Spare him. Killing him results in this quest line ending prematurely. Once you do that, you then help the god Amon to claim the powers of the sun god, but then you beat his ass just for Khonsu to steal the powers of said sun god. And now comes the tricky part. With those quests done, it's time to do the last quest, the Succession of Ra, but it's not showing up anywhere. Normally, this would mean you messed up somewhere, but in all reality, there's only one thing you need to do, and there's no way you'd know this without a guide. You need to talk to Miyazu back in the fairy village. Talk to her enough, and suddenly Isis, who has since relocated to Odaiba, now suddenly says, "Whoa, Khonsu needs to be stopped." Again. When I tried doing this the first time around, I was so perplexed, because most of the guides I looked up neglected to mention this crucial detail. I nearly rage quit this project just because of this. Isis wants to stop Khonsu, because it turns out Khonsu's knowledge just happens to be Miyazu, and she's been diagnosed with a terminal disease that will kill her in a few years. Khonsu has been giving Miyazu a lot of Magatsui to help prolong her life and slowly turn her into a god. This sounds like a good thing, but the transformation to godhood for her will result in her losing her humanity, and thus what makes her special and unique. Khonsu is hell-bent on trying to save her, but the other gods disapprove of his actions, including Miyazu herself. Once you beat him, you can decide whether to kill Khonsu, spare him, or let him continue to turn Miyazu into a god. Whatever option you pick doesn't matter. Completing this quest is all you need to do to continue your journey for the true ending. This is probably my favorite part of the game as it tugs with your morality and helps flesh out a human character. And when you think about it, this is actually the only instance in the game where a human character gets any depth and focus in this game, and it's actually interesting. And all it took was more than 70 hours of gameplay and a second playthrough, because screw you! Your time in the story in this role-playing game don't matter! Now, once you've done these side quests, we have one last thing to do, and it's probably the hardest thing in the base game. Fight Shiva. Shiva's gonna destroy the world inevitably, and refuse to change their mind, so you need to knock some sense into them. Shiva is a super boss that is inaccessible unless you are at least level 80, and Shiva puts the other gods you fought to shame, and will solo your entire team unless you know what their weakness is. And it's ice, by the way. Shiva will summon allies as you fight to distract you and heal Shiva. Take out the healer, spam ice moves, and buff your stats while lowering Shiva's, and eventually, Shiva will go down. And with all these steps done, congrats! The true ending is almost within your grasp. Now you just play through the game normally and make sure you pick the option to destroy the throne. Once you beat Abdiel, Nua will meet you and talk to you, expressing that there may be another option as opposed to just destroying the throne. Continue playing the game normally until you beat Yuzuru, and then you could choose to either destroy the throne or create a new world for humans. Pick the new option, and now you will create a world without demons or gods. As you ascend towards the throne, prepare to say goodbye to Aogami, or Susanoo, whoever they are. The one person who's been with us since the very beginning of the game. Until surprise, it's Lucifer! Lucifer stops you because reasons, and wants to fight. So now you have to put everything down and fight one last boss because hey, what's just a few more minutes of gameplay? As you fight Lucifer, he drops a bunch of random exposition. Apparently, when he killed God, he absorbed God's knowledge, and by doing so, realized that reality is a scam and apparently just loops forever, and that as long as demons and gods exist, then a mandala cycle will continue to exist, where no matter how the world is recreated, a new version of Dot will also be created. And eventually, demons will destroy the world, leading to another race for the throne of creation, and that the only true way to break the cycle is to erase all demons and gods from existence, and to do that, we need to defeat Lucifer and absorb his power. Fine, whatever, we murder him too. His fight is actually easy, if you'd believe that. Just keep your stats up and use dark or piercing moves when he's in his regular form, and switch to fire when he switches forms. Once he's dead, you finally get to finish the game. Aogami or Susanoo, whatever his name is, talks about how he's proud of your decision and would have done the same, shakes your hand, and vanishes from existence. Once the credits roll, we get told that a world for humans was made, as we get to see all the human characters we met from our pro tag to even Sahori going to school. But the game for some reason needs to ruin itself, and shows that a version of our character that became God is still around, thus meaning that we probably didn't break that mandala cycle, leaving the ending very confusing. What just happened? Shin Megami Tensei V is a game packed to the brim with nice visuals and funny dialogue, but unfortunately, it falls really short in its story. It's completely rushed and doesn't take its time. It fills itself with side quests everywhere just to pad out the length, and its endings suck and do not fix the story's problems. None of the characters are interesting, and only a few of them get any development, and some of them are locked behind side quests. Despite everything, I did find myself enjoying the game, because where the story falls flat, the challenge makes up for all of it. This isn't Kaizo up difficult for the sake of being difficult hard. This is challenging in a fun way. At no point can you feel overleveled and powerhouse your way through things. I eventually reached the maximum level, and even then, I still managed to just barely scrape by some fights. The story may have been a disappointment, but I'm glad the game challenged me in a way to keep my interest, and this is one of the nicer looking Nintendo Switch games, even if most of the areas of the game look the same but with different color filters. This may not be a good representation of what the rest of the Megami Tensei franchise is like, and it might not be my immediate go-to RPG, but it's serviceable and can offer a good time. I give this game a purple rupee. Hey everyone, GamingNavi here. Thank you all so much for watching my Shin Megami Tensei V video. This one has been a long time coming and in the works. Huge shout out to GeekTunes for editing this video together. This could not be possible without their help, and it means the world to me. I also want to thank Gumshoe Gamer for helping to edit the script, as there was a lot to work with. Their channels will be linked below, and I hope you give them the support they deserve. Also, while you're here, hit the like and subscribe button. It means a lot. Meantime, I will see you all next time, and I hope each and every one of you has a good day. See you!